Well, hello everyone and welcome to our December Education Night, which is also doubling up as our social night. We're here at the Winston in Winston Hills, and tonight we've got a special presentation from Mr. Todd Hedglin from the United States in Colorado. Todd is a certified fire investigator with the IAAI, and he works for IRIS Fire Investigation as an operations officer, and as well as an investigator, being a member of the military in the US, and also a prominent member of the IAAI, who is on the ethics committee, chair of the ethics committee as well. So he's very experienced, and he's in Australia, and he's going to have a chat tonight about fire and human behaviour, which is a very interesting topic, which we're all glad that you've come to do this for us. So, ladies and gentlemen, people on Facebook, welcome to Mr. Todd Hedglin. Thank you.
Everybody good enough to eat? Yes? I got one yes. I got nothing else. You're either still eating or you haven't had enough yet. You have to drink, or are we still in progress? It's an interactive type thing. We can talk back and forth, just so you know. Right? Just a quick, brief background about myself. I started as a paramedic probably, 1991. Worked as a firefighter in Denver for a long time. Did 20 years with the fire service in Denver. Worked for a couple engineering firms as a fire investigator. Worked for IRIS Fire Investigations now as an investigator. I work as their operations officer. Background in the military, I spent 6 years Army Special Forces. I spent another almost a total of 20 years as a Navy corpsman. I was a combat medic assigned to the 2nd Marine Division in Iraq, Afghanistan, all those wonderful paradise places you don't want to go. So, at any point we get into this, if you guys got questions, stop and ask me. A little bit more of my background. I've got a little bit of background in forensic psychology as it relates to fire investigation. I'm not here to make you psychologists. Okay, that's not the point. The point is an awareness. How do you think? So fire and human behavior. How do you think? How does the general public think? Well, let's find out. So, start with reference-wise. This is everything I pulled all the references for, all the permissions, all that glorious type stuff. If you have questions, I'll come back to this later. You need a minute, Vicky, or are you still? Disney? A picture. Just a picture. All right. Fire and human behavior. And I have a tendency to wander a little bit, so I may wander back and forth here, okay? What do you see? It's a dark way to start, I understand.
Partial body?
Yeah. Yep, see the body. Pretty straightforward. Head, torso, arms. Why does that happen? Why do people die in fires?
Carbon monoxide.
Carbon monoxide, what else?
Disorientation.
Disorientation.
Heat.
Heat, what else? There's no wrong answers, throw it out there.
Panic.
Absolutely. As it relates to this, there's a lot of contributing factors as to why people die in fires. How about age? Accessibility. How do they get in and out of a building? How do they get in and out of a structure? Is it adequate? Was there fire protection? Was there alcohol or drugs involved? All of those things are going to contribute to fire and human behavior. So let's expand on that just a little bit more. This lady, so all the pictures, everything you got in here are all fires that I've worked personally. These aren't things that I pulled a lot off the internet. These are all mine. This lady, related to fire and human behavior, midday afternoon, 2 o'clock, fire breaks out in the basement. Her son's in the basement smoking in bed. He dies in the fire. She's 98 years old. She's able to exit the building. Once she exits the building, she makes it outside all the way to the street and then determines, oh, I forgot my purse. What happens to most of those people, the majority of them make it out, and and then they go back inside, and what happens? They don't come back, right? Well, what happened? You mentioned disorientation, right? She went in the front door. So if the front door is here, she was able to come in the door 8 feet, grab her purse, and by the time she turned around, she was disoriented. And when she went to go back outside, this little alcove area right here, there was a window. She thought it was the door. She was going for the window, going for the door, passed out, landed on the table. This is where she ended up. Why does that happen?
People are stupid.
They are. Material items. Can we replace a driver's license or personal documents? Or yes, you want your photographs, but this is the kind of thing that happens. So let's go deeper. Panic. A lot of people panic in a fire. Most of us, I would imagine in this room, have had ample level of training as it relates to fire. Whether you're a firefighter or an investigator, doesn't matter. You've been exposed to the subject. Well, depending on the outcome, if the outcome is negative, if somebody dies, oh, they panicked. If they're able to rescue somebody, it becomes heroic. So it's all perspective. Whether they died, it was panic, you rescued somebody, it was heroic. So keep that in mind, so we're going to circle back to that here a little later. How many of you are familiar with the Station Nightclub fire that occurred in Rhode Island a few years ago, right? How many people died in that fire?
100.
100. How many were injured?
330.
Some ungodly number. Second worst fire in U.S. history. Now granted, and I will preface this, I really did my homework and tried to find a lot of Australian type stuff, but there's not a lot of research out there, so I really did look. So I do make some references to it. Okay. So this is a layout, it's the floor plan of the Station Nightclub. What do you see in the Station Nightclub? We got rooms, we got multiple rooms. It's like a maze, isn't it?
4 entry exits.
There are. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3, and there's 4. There's 4. So you've got this one over here off the kitchen. You've got one over here off this exit. Obviously the front door. And then when we come over here, we've got the stage exit. Now,
How many of them were labelled emergency exit only?
front door. Now, let's talk again. Fire and human behavior. What happens? Most of us, how did we all get in here today? We walked through the front door, right? Most people, everybody else in here, if there's a fire and there's a panic, how are they getting out? The same way they came in, which is exactly what happened here. How many of you are in the habit of, when you go into a building, I'm one of them, if you go in and you look for multiple exits, you're like, how am I getting out of here if there's a problem? Guilty. I'm completely guilty of this. So here's what happens. From here, let's see what actually happened. I'm standing right in the way, I'm sorry. Here's where everybody died in the Station Nightclub fire. What do you notice?
You get the build up in the corridor of the door, probably
Exactly.
because people that are first exit, as soon as they exit, they stop.
Yep.
And that causes the backlog and people get trapped.
Yep. I actually learned something here the other day. I did not know this. We went to Subway the other day, and it really didn't dawn on me that when I went in the door, I was standing there trying to pull the door open, and I looked like a fool. She said, "You got to push," and I was like, "Excuse me, push." Why would you put? And it dawned on me, it's not in your fire code. So in the U.S., in our fire code, all doors have to open outwardly to prevent part of that problem. So it's in fire code that we have to do that. I didn't know that, so I learned something new. Point is, if you look at what's going on, 31 people, fatalities. This makes sense. Everybody kind of got caught here. People, the majority of these people here were trampled. A lot of these people just got lost. But where do you notice no collection? There's nothing here, there's nothing here, and there's nothing over here. The stage door, people were told you can't exit this way, even though there's a fire. There was somebody physically standing there telling them you cannot exit this way. Why? That's ridiculous. So, food for thought. Let's keep talking about this a little bit. Means of awareness in fire incidents. Most people, and when I say most people, I can include us, but I'm going to say the general public. How are most people alerted to the fact that there is a fire? Well, obviously, everybody smells smoke. I'm not going to read all these, so you guys are all educated, you can read these yourself. The noise, notified by family, saw smoke, an explosion, heat, whatever the case, these are all the ways people are notified of a fire. Why is this significant?
Hopefully they've got a smoke alarm.
Exactly. Smoke alarm, smoke detector, auditory alarm, they're going to hear something. That's why people push them so hard. Their pet, only 2 people, and this is just 569 random people they just talked to, right? So let's break this down a little bit. So, remember you guys all aware of the World Trade Center, obviously, that went down. In the World Trade Center, when that went down, of the survivors in Tower 1, they interviewed those people and said, hey, these are the people they said, and all they asked them was, what was the first thing you did when you heard there was a fire or there was a catastrophe or something? What was the very first thing that you did? And that was the only question they asked them. Talk to others, 70. Gather personal items, 46. Take a look at those numbers for just a second. Continued to work, shut down their computers. Why would you shut down your computer? It's habit. I gotta leave. I gotta shut my computer off. I'm gonna get in trouble. It's muscle memory. Now, that's Tower 1. They went to Tower 2. Here's Tower 2.
Which one did the aircraft go into first?
Tower 1.
Okay.
Here's Tower 2. And to save you some brain cells, I mirrored them. Here you go. What do you see about that? Now here's the thing. As you're looking at this, these are 2 completely independent towers, and these people were interviewed real briefly and said, what did you do? That's what they did. How close are those to how the human brain is programmed as to what we do? It's very close, right? It's kind of creepy close, actually, if you want my opinion. But why is this important in the investigation world?
Human behaviour, yeah.
Say again?
Human behaviour?
Human behavior. You can track, you can predict what people are going to do, where they were at. What it can do is it's going to add and create questions to how you're going to talk to people. How are you going to interview them? Where were they at? What were they doing? What was the mean doing? What was the most of the group up to? Food for thought, okay? Moving on. Let's talk a little bit about fire behavior as it relates to this, a little bit of background. These are some of my favorite slides. 40%. This one I gotta read because it's just too much fun. Psychiatrists agree that fire setting in children is rare. In the US they say it's rare. But at the same time, over 40% that they arrest are under the age of 18. And those are just facts. How does that make any sense? Well, human behavior in fire is a little bit different than what the psychologists or psychiatrists believe. So, let's go way back in time. 19th century, Germans. They tried to understand arsonists. They tried to understand why people were setting fires. So what did they do? They took all kinds of samples and they said, all right, this person set a fire, and this person set a fire, and this person set a fire, and that person, what do they all have in common? And they said, yeah, that's probably what the cause is. And that's really as far as they went. So it was just kind of in general, all right? However, this is a fact. German scientists believe, unequivocally, fires are set by mentally retarded women who had severe menstrual problems whose sexual development was abnormal. That is straight out of the history book. Now, BJ, what? It is, but it's pretty good though, right? I mean, if you think about it, that's kind of, I mean, from where they are then to where we are now, here's a little bit of history of the thought process that was invoked in this, right? So let's talk about a couple arson myths real quick. Arson, deliberate, okay? That was the cause of the fire. Fact is, arson is a crime. Just like homicide, speeding, whatever, that's a crime. It's not a cause of a fire. A cause of a fire is your ignition scenario. Your first fuel, all that, when you put all that stuff together, your first fuel, point of origin, area of origin, heat source, that's your cause. Arson is not the cause of a fire. Speaking of fire, how do these glorious pictures make you feel? I mean, we've got candles. What do you think?
Burn it all.
Remember, this is interactive, right?
Burn it all.
I mean, is this aggressive or is this relaxing, everybody?
It's very relaxing.
It is. It's relaxing, right? Start a fire in the fireplace, candles. It's tranquil, if you will, right? All right. How many of you have ever called somebody or been called yourself a pyromaniac? How often is that term just thrown around like, oh, you're a pyromaniac?
Especially in the media.
It's in the media, right? The media just throws pyromaniac around. All right. Brief dose of reality. Here we go. The DSM, which is the diagnostic book in the US, individuals of pyromania that fit the description of pyromania receive pleasure, gratification, or relief from setting fires. How many of you have ever lit a candle?
How old is that definition?
How
old is that definition?
That's new. That's still current.
Oh, it's still current. Okay.
Oh yeah, this is all current. This is nothing that's old.
I think DSM-5 is out.
Say again?
I think DSM-5 or 6 is out in the last couple of years.
How many of you ever lit a candle? Started a fire in a fireplace and wanted to relax? So what you're saying is you're all pyromaniacs, right? Is that what I'm hearing? Everybody, I can just see everybody at the look at their faces going, where the hell's he going with this? All right, here's where we're going. Here's the thing about pyromaniac in the definition. It excludes monetary gain, concealment of a crime, express anger, vengeance. That definition is not included in the definition of pyromaniac in any way, shape, or form. So, technically, pyromaniac is not a derogatory or negative term. It's thrown around by the media and it's thrown around by those who need to be further educated in the subject of fire. Does that surprise anybody? Surprised me the first time I read it. I went, are you kidding me? I didn't know I was a pyromaniac, but hey, I guess it fits. One more. Here's another one for the pyromania. Here's a couple stats real quick. In 97, 81 convicted arsonists. Not one of them met the criteria for pyromania. Not one. And these people are not just, they went into jail and the booking officer said, hey, he's a pyromaniac. No, these people were actually, forensic psychologists looked at him and they talked to him and they diagnosed him and not one of them met that criteria. So, Center for Arson Research, CAR, they redid this study back in 2003. It was a very expensive study. And when they redid this entire study, they found the exact same thing. They interviewed hundreds and hundreds of people that were convicted and thrown in jail of arson. And I think very few of them, I want to say probably less than 10, actually fit the criteria. So it still holds true as far as we know today. So, motives. I know I'm going fast, and I'll preface it with this. This presentation you guys are getting normally for me, this is an 8-hour presentation I've crammed into an hour. Okay, so we're gonna, is everybody still with me?
Yes.
Are you guys ready to start drinking already? Yeah. No? All right. Spite and revenge. Absolutely. Crime concealment. Had a fire case one time. We had a large structure fire in an apartment complex, and the individual had killed this person, buried him under the floorboards, and then set the whole building on fire just to conceal the crime. Had I not fallen through the floor, we would have never found him. So, crime concealment. Profit, fraud, vandalism, excitement, extremism.
What's how you live?
He's right here. ALF and ELF. We've got two activist groups in the U.S., the Animal Liberation Front and the Environmental Liberation Front. And here's what kills me about the ELF. They're all about the environment, but to get their point across, they set fires. I can't explain it. Oh, and then, like the picture, remember I told you these are my pictures? That's the back of my head.
There you go.
That was my first structure fire as a rookie.
There you
So
go.
that's the back of my head. That's my claim to fame for this whole thing.
There you go.
That's a significant fire, yeah? That's Vale in 1998. The Environmental Liberation Front thought it would be a good idea to set Vale on fire.
What's
So
Vale?
that's the Vale Lodge. It's a ski resort.
Oh.
And that was just at the beginning of right at the start of ski season. Millions and millions of dollars damage. So they took claim for this one. Got a couple firebugs that run around, and two of them we still haven't caught. They tend to set parking lots on fire.
Happens
In
in
Lakewood,
Austra-
Colorado.
happens in Australia too.
I imagine it happens everywhere. Everybody should be familiar roughly with these. Picture on the left, Boston Marathon bombing, Oklahoma City, arsons of a large magnitude, right? And again, keeping in mind, fire and human behavior. Arsonists, the people that are doing this, why do they do it? They're trying to prove a point. They're trying to establish something. This is in Colorado Springs, Colorado. It's the Waldo Canyon fire. It's the first time I can honestly say I ever saw a firestorm. I was about, we'll call that maybe 5 kilometers away, and I could still feel the heat. I mean, it was ridiculous. This was an arson fire. It's still an open case. They're looking for somebody, but this was an arson. I think I want to say it killed 9 people, destroyed probably 600-700 homes. It was ridiculous. So, the ELF and the ALF will leave a calling card for us. ALF, the ELF. This fabulous book right here, Arson Around with Anti-Alf. Don't Google it. At least don't Google it in the US because you get flagged. This book has about 36 to 40 how to set the fire to get the biggest bang for your buck. How to burn that building down. And this is a book that they circulate within their group. It's intense.
How do they publish it?
They don't. They just make it themselves and word of mouth. And you can Google it. I tried. I got a phone call. I've got a copy of the book, which is the picture I took. It's an interesting book, and I'll give you an example. One of the things in the book they talked about was, and they get very, very detailed about how to do this. So the people that have done this really understand fire. They really get what's going on. Okay. One of the examples in here, not I'm promoting any of this, but they'll take, for example, white PVC pipe, and they'll take a bundle of sparklers and they'll jam it down the pipe, and they'll pull one sparkler out. They'll get a mobile phone, they'll pull the speaker off the phone, and they'll wire it to a model rocket engine over the sparkler, and they'll take that PVC. PVC burns great when it gets hot enough. It burns fabulous. And they'll screw it into the eave of a building, and they'll go 50 miles away, dial the phone, sets that off. That's how they started this fire. That book is full of how to do that. It's impressive. So, everybody good so far? I haven't lost anybody yet, right? No? All right. Let's talk about some fire center subtypes, and I'm not going to have time to go into all of these, so a couple of them I'm going to miss, but we'll highlight the good stuff. Experimental curiosity. delinquent fire setters, thought disordered revenge, and this is the psychological profiles. The FBI has a different set of profiles. It's similar, but it varies a little bit. Thrill seeker, disordered coping, and cluster. These are how these people are broken down and diagnosed into these different type of categories. All right, so I'm not, like I said, I'm not here to make you a psychologist. It's just an awareness type thing. So let's just dive right in. Age of accountability, and if I make a mistake on this, please somebody correct me. Okay. In the U.S., age of accountability is 7. You can be held and charged as an adult at the age of 7. You are culpable for your own actions
14?
at the age of 7.
It's 14.
Here, this may have changed, but I looked and the last thing I could find research-wise was 10.
10?
There's a difference between male and female. Females is 8.
Females 8?
Yeah.
Okay, see, that's good. I didn't know that. I'll put it in.
Is it the same for the US as well?
It's all one age. Now, certain groups, so certain states, so this is, if you're charged with a federal crime, it's 7. Where it gets confusing in the U.S. is we have the federal government, and then we have state government, and then we have county government, and then we have city government. And everybody has a different set of rules. So it depends on where you committed the crime as to what you're going to get charged with, right? Creates an issue. Usually, curiosity has no criminal intent to it. He didn't mean to do what he did. He's curious. We're going to get into this a little bit deeper. In a lot of these places, the discretion, and again, this is something I need to learn for myself, is discretion here left up to, say, the arresting officer, the attorneys, the courts, as to what they want to do, or is it just a hard and fast rule, hey, this is what's going to happen, you're toast?
Depends on the offense.
Depends on the offense, so there is some discretion to it, right? Okay. Same thing with us, we have the discretion. If I catch a kid who's an arsonist, if I can do something with him, okay, great. If not, we're going to move on. That being said, let's talk about these individuals. When we say there's no intent, I didn't mean to start there. That was not the point. How many of you, self-included, checked out fire when you were a kid? Everybody looks at it and goes, not really. That's what I thought. Raise your hand. Jeez.
Loosen up.
There's no intent. We didn't intend to commit a crime. How hard is it to prove intent in the first place anyway? It's not the easiest thing to do to prove intent. Opportunistic, spontaneous. Oh hey, there's a light. I bet this burns. Let's find out. Right? Okay. Most of these kids are all underage. And when I say underage, I'm talking under 10. They're checking things out. A lot of them, we'll get to it. You can't predict what's going to happen. You never know what kid's going to go, hey, I want to check this out. Maybe I should set this on fire. What does this do? What does it match? They're curious. It's damage, it's a byproduct. They're not meaning to do it. They're just checking it out. How fast does a fire grow? Go back to some fire science.
A lot of air.
Okay? It increases, doubles every 30 seconds, typically. It's a fuel limited fire, it doubles every 30 seconds. So for a 6-year-old, how big of a deal is that? Can be. No supervision, there's a lack of it. Here's the point that's interesting when we talk about experimental curiosity. Up to 2 fires. Well, what constitutes setting a fire? Anybody?
Ignition source, fuel, oxygen.
Okay. A fire set constitutes not just the flick of the pick. But if I take the lighter and I light a stick on fire, that constitutes 1 fire set. That is significant. That's just one, not the deal. Okay? A couple weeks later, hey, that was kind of cool. I'm going to do that again. Flick of the bic, or light a stick on fire. That's 2 fire sets. Psychologically, any more than 2 fire sets, you could actually fall into one of those 7 categories after 2 sets. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. So, let's talk about a couple of myths about juvenile fire settings. And again, we're still on the topic of fire and human behavior. Fire play is normal. No, it's not. Is stealing normal? Well, I suppose for somebody it might be, but is stealing normal? Of course not. Is it okay? Of course not. Fire play is not normal. Stealing is not normal. Fire play is not a phase. This is not something that people just, oh, I'm going to go play with fire. It doesn't work that way. Do what? Touche. Okay? Like I said, it's not a phase. This isn't something she's just going to go through and, hey, they're going to play with fire for about 6 weeks and they're going to get out. That's not how this works. They're fire experts. We're going to do a case study here in just a second. I'm going to introduce you to this young man. When we talk about fire experts, they're not experts. They just do this enough. They understand what they're doing and what works for them. Not that they're an expert. You're the experts. You shook your head like no.
Of course he's
All right. No, listen to it. Here's the next one. Children are naturally obsessed with fire. No, they're not. Anybody that tells you that is being ridiculous. They're not naturally obsessed with fire. It's not how this works. Small fires are unimportant. We just talked about setting a stick on fire, right? That's important. Every time something is set on fire, that counts as a set. It's not just a single, oh, it's not a big deal, let's blow it off. It's a big deal, let's blow it off. It doesn't work like that. Pay attention to those small fires. Every single one of them is a big deal. So, questions? Everybody still with me? All right. Moderate income. Single parent families. This young man, he definitely caught my attention. 9-year-old male set the house on fire. Prior to setting the house on fire, he lived in Wyoming, north of Colorado, right in the center of the country. It was snowing. He decided he was going to march up and down the street, yelling and screaming as loud as he could, in a pair of snow boots, his underwear, and a sweatshirt. They called the police, took him home, said he was cold. All right. The young man was not detained on any criminal charges. Why? Because he's only 9. He was underage. He has a previous fire setting history. He's been caught in the act by multiple people. Teachers, parents, grandparents, the police, and even the fire chief have physically watched him set a fire. But because he's under the age, they can't charge him with anything wrong. He's abusive to animals, other children. He throws fireworks at teachers in school. But because he's again underage, and there's no place to put him, Dad works road crew, Mom's on drugs, and she sneaks in and out of the house through the window on a regular basis. There's no place to put him, so they have to leave him in school. He's supervised normally by an 88-year-old grandfather who can't keep up with the kids. That's a problem already. Does anybody see this as a recipe for disaster yet? It is. Placement counseling, refused by the parents. Not going to do it. Too expensive, don't have time, he'll be fine, don't worry about it. He's playing with fire, all kids do. Well, all kids that play with fire should pay attention to those small things, because this is usually what happens. So here's the exterior of the home. Interior, a little worse. Right about here, there was a wood-burning stove. And he decided that he was going to start a fire in the wood-burning stove. And he thought, you know what? And this was based on an interview I had with him. He said, it's not getting hot enough fast enough. So he went ahead and started the fire in the woodbox. Set the whole house ablaze. The fire brigade showed up to put the fire out. He was standing outside doing what he was doing before the fire, marching up and down the street, yelling and screaming in his boots and his underwear and his sweatshirt. Grandpa was stuck back in this back bedroom, and he had to bail out of the window. To this day, this young man still lives in that same town, and nobody's done anything, and they've had the same problem. He's done this for 3 homes already.
How old is he now?
I don't know. Supposedly, they were going to move him to North Carolina, someplace where they could actually get the kids some help. But this is where it ended up so far.
But how old is he now?
How old is he now? He's 11. Or would be 11. So, doing the investigation, after we looked at everything, found all kinds of fireworks in the back of the car. What he would do is when he would come home from school, he'd light these fireworks and he'd throw them at the other kids as they'd walk home. Everybody in the town, the teacher, everybody was terrified of this kid. So, pictures are worth 1,000 words, are they not? One of the psychological things that we can do, and I've done this with a lot, and it doesn't have to be just with kids, you do this with adults. Again, I am not a psychologist. I have a forensic psychologist, doctorate individual, Laura Billings, is a friend of mine, who will analyze these pictures for me. So one of the things that I've done in the past is I'll have this individual sit down, and I'll give him a blank piece of paper, a box of colored pencils, and say, I need you to draw me a picture. All I want in the picture is I want a picture of a person, a tree, and a house. And those are the only instructions I give them, and there's no time limit. Knock it out. You're not a psychologist, I don't think, are you? Anybody? Tell me if this picture concerns you, because it scared the hell out of me. This is what he drew for me. Is there something going on in that kid's head? I can just watch everybody's face just kind of like, yeah. I mean, I don't have to be a psychologist to tell you there's a problem here. Now, some of the things that were pointed out to me about this individual, there's a lot going on in this picture. And again, I'm not the diagnosee, but for example, he identifies after the picture is drawn. This is him. He draws himself with his hair on fire. With his hair on fire. How many people told me he's supposed to be in his family? 5. Draws 5 pieces of fruit on the tree. All these things are indicative. The way he draws the windows, he feels caged in. All the yellow, all the fire inside the building, the smoke. And the other thing that was disturbing, believe it or not, from what I'm informed of, the sunshine and the blue sky, the kid's happy doing it. That's the other problem. So, pictures are worth 1,000 words, right? Let's do another one. Here's another individual. This fire, I investigated this one 2 days after I did the last one. So I was on my game when it came to this one. Low income, 2-parent family. Low income, like almost none. And then guess what? Another 9-year-old man. Again, not detained on any charges. Has previous fire setting history. And when I say previous fire setting history, when I went into this house, this young man had popsicle sticks that he would light on fire, and he'd turn them upside down, and he'd just drop them on the ground, and there were burn marks in the carpet, all over the house. Found them in the garage, the yard, everywhere. Every one of those constitutes a separate fire scene. It was interesting. At the time, I kind of filed it and dismissed it. I wanted to talk to the kid. Found out that he's abusive to animals. You see a theme here? Counseling. Stopped by the parents. They felt it was a waste of time. He needs it. He's fine. I quickly found out why they stopped the counseling. So, Dad lost his job. Mom lost her job. Had a relatively new house in North Denver. They determined the kid was a threat. They turned him over to his parents and said, we can't charge him, do something with him. So you know what the parents did? They let him burn the house down to collect the insurance money. They never stopped it. And it all came out in the investigation. That's where these people's mental capacity is. Now, what's even more disturbing, how many of you have kids? Nieces, nephews? Anybody? Right? What does your bedroom look like right now?
Pretty
You
messy.
have curtains, you have a bed, you have sheets on your bed. You have a comfortable living environment, right? This young man, when I talk about it being important that people really understand that they have to be parents, they have to supervise, they have to take care of things. This young man, this is where he lived. This was his room. All gets better. And here's the other thing. The door is open, right? Why would you lock your child in their room? Are you kidding me?
Because of the holes punched in the wall, that's why.
The kid was trying to get out, and that came out in the interview. Furthermore, here's his floor. I talked to this young man and I interviewed him, and I said, "Can you tell me about the fire?" He said, "Well, yeah, I guess." And he never really talked to me until I showed him a picture of the closet that was burned. And he went from a sitting position next to mom, stood up, puffed his chest out, and said, "Let me tell you what happened. You have my attention. I'm all ears. What happened?" He said, he goes, and this kid's 9 years old. Keep this in mind. He's very articulate. And he tells me, he goes, "Well, I was laying in bed. I heard the voice that said, 'Do it, just do it. Do it, just do it.' So I figured I'd get up and do it." And I go, "Well, what did you do?" He said, "The voice kept telling me." So I grabbed my lighter and I said, "You have a lighter?" And you know what his response to me was? He said, "You don't?" What do you mean you don't? Of course I don't. In his bedroom, on the floor, was his lighter. He was laying in that bed, walked down the hallway, saw mom and his brother asleep in the bed, walked into the closet. Closet was here, shower. I said, "What did you do?" This kid explains to me, and again, he's 9 years old. He says, I lit the popsicle stick on fire. He says, I turned it upside down. And he goes, I laid it on the ground. And I said, "You didn't throw it?" He goes, No. He goes, "If you throw it, it'll go out." Wow, okay. He said, "I laid it at the base of mom's dress. I took three, and he was very, very pointed. I took 3 steps back. And this kid, it's like he went someplace else. And he said, "Have you ever just watched it?" Wow, okay. I said, "What did you do?" He goes, "Well, it got kind of hot, so I figured I better wake mom up and let her know there was fire in the house." Fire brigade showed up. He was sitting, his legs crossed, sitting on the lawn. When they pulled up in the truck, started spraying water, and started clapping their chin. This is a problem. Agreed? I got everybody's attention in the room, don't I? All right. How about another 1,000 words real quick? Ready? This picture was even more terrifying than the last one, according to the psychologists.
Simple.
You know how long it took him to do that? 45 minutes. What do you see? Or what do you not see? That's the next best question, right?
I see the family.
There's a lot not happening. Is there a fire inside the house? Or, let me rephrase the question. Would you agree that there's a fire inside the house? Absolutely. Things that they derive from this picture. The base of the tree is very narrow. It doesn't have a stable home. The branches, the green on the tree, there's nothing there. This kid's got nothing. He has no structure, he has no home, he has nothing. And it shows. I still got everybody? All right. Let's talk about delinquent fire sitters real quick. A couple characteristics. Delinquent fire setters in that category not mean they're just a delinquent fire setter. They're a delinquent in the form of the word delinquent. Whether they use fire, whether they throw a rock through a window, it doesn't matter. They're going to be delinquent whether it's with fire or without. Fire just happens to fall into their category of their repertoire of what they're going to do. Okay? A lot of these kids will actually self-report, say, you know what, I did it, my fault. And then they get them in trouble, and then 2 weeks later they're going to do it again, which is what makes them delinquent. Here's a few things you're going to find even with the last kid. Impulse behavior, family problems, property destruction, the wall, you pointed that out, all of those things, everything's going to fall into this. Excessive anger. If you were the kid in the last one, would you feel like you'd probably fall into those categories if you knew something about it? Absolutely. Hyperactivity, can't control himself, he's all over the place. The average age of those individuals, 13 and a half, roughly years old. That's usually where they're going to fall into. A couple motivations. We do not like authority. We do not like being told what to do. When I say adult authority, includes their parents, their grandparents, you, me, doesn't matter. They don't like being told what to do, they're going to do their own thing. I mentioned earlier, fire to them is just a tool. That's not the means to the end. If they don't have fire, they're going to do something else. Okay? Even if they set a fire, they may try to destroy something to cover up the fire. Sometimes this falls into a drug debt. Why? I don't know. It just seems to be a common denominator with the delinquents. And we're looking, grades 9, 10, 11, 12, maybe 8, somewhere in there. This is what in the States we refer to as gangster light. They're trying to prove a point. They're trying to fit in someplace. They don't have a family at home. Well, guess what? They're going to go find a family on the street. That's kind of where they're going to fit into. So, they don't care if they're going to cause harm or destruction. They have zero emotional attachment to a fire. Like I said, it's not the fire that makes them do what they want to do. They just want to be destructive. How many of you ever interviewed somebody who had a group of kids that you talked to and they're all rolling over on each other? Oh, no, he did it. No, he told me to do it. Oh, he told me to do it. Oh, no, their finger pointing. This is exactly the category that they fit into. Okay? Is that delinquent fire setter category. They won't take responsibility. He did it, or he did it, he did it, she did it. They will never take anything for it. They have no concept of consequences. If you tell them, hey, you're going to jail, all right, whatever. They don't understand that. Hey, I'm going to lock you up for 50 years. I don't care. I'm going to take you out of your home, whatever. It's not effective. It's not something that you can negotiate.
When you say delinquents, what are you talking about? An age group?
Ballpark, grades usually 7 or 8 through 12.
Okay.
That whole delinquent fire centers is usually where that category falls into. This individual, real quick, is a 14-year-old male. He's already on probation, vandalism of his school, which is a felony in the States. Spike's got a problem with authority, failing schools, several suspensions. He has no organization. He has no guidance anywhere. So as he, starts hanging out with older kids to get some of that guidance, they encourage his bad behavior. They enjoy watching him. If he's the one willing to do it, they're going to push him to do it because they want to watch. He's arrested for vandalizing a school and a house that's under construction. So what he did is he broke into this house and he took construction glue and he smeared it all over the side of the school. And he lit the construction adhesive on fire, that's the house, that's the school. Ended up almost $1 million damage. This individual got charged, he was 14, he's still in jail.
Did he know it was flammable?
Oh yeah.
The glue?
Absolutely. Yeah, in the interview he even said he did. This is one of my favorites. Revenge fire centers.
It's women, isn't it?
Huh?
Women.
They're their own category. Sorry. They're their own category. Revenge fire setters. Many of them target indirectly. And we're going to do a case study on this guy, on Mr. Martin Espinosa. It's one of my favorites. Sometimes they target directly, a lot of times they target indirectly. Think of it this way, if you walk down the street and you spit on his shoe, he's probably going to burn the house. He's that guy. And he's very real. And these are the people that you need to take very, very seriously. Revenge fire setters are no joke. They don't like to reveal their fires. They don't like to reveal how many they've set, because even in talking to them, they feel like it gives them some kind of a power. But they know something that you don't know. Teenage fire setters is revenge. A lot of the criminal behavior is going to start with these revenge fire setters. They see they can get away with it, they'll continue. So, for these individuals, arson is an act of retaliation. It's always an act of retaliation. You did something to me, I'm coming after you. That's how they operate. Typically, it starts 10 years of age. Not always, just typically. A lot of these people feel like they've been wronged by somebody, society, it doesn't matter. The individual we're going to talk about, it's kind of a show, if you will. So, just going to throw these up here real quick for you. Martin is a lot older. Martin's not much older than this. Martin's probably, if I remember right, I think Martin was 23, 24. So, I'm going to cruise through some of these slides real fast. I apologize. Before we get to Martin, here's one quick case study. Two teenagers, they're hired by a drug dealer for $50 a piece. And what does he ask these two kids to do? Throw a Molotov cocktail through a window. It was a drug deal. He didn't get paid. He wanted to get even. Homeowner who owned the place went down to the shops, groceries, left mom, daughter, granddaughter, and a friend in the house. Kids go up, throw the cocktail through the window, ignites the room. Home's decimated, 4 dead. House. Teens were on the wrong street, on the wrong block, and at the wrong house. The drug dealer, he's still out there. Nobody has a clue who he is. 2 kids were sentenced. They're still in jail. They got another 8-9 years to go. But if you look at it, there's the living room. Front door. It's the fire, the kitchen. Here's the oven. Here's Martin. This is the last fire I investigated as a public fire investigator. Assisted. There was a lot of us on this one. Martin, early 20s male. He lived with his parents, his girlfriend, got into an argument. He said, Martin, you got to get a job. He's like, I'm not getting a job. He says, you got to get a job. I'm not getting a job. His girlfriend takes mom and dad's side and says, Martin, you got to get a job. I'm burning this place down. Martin is a revenge fire setter. Todd didn't even know that. Involved with an argument with his family over employment. Says he's going to burn it down. Destroys the apartment building. He's charged with multiple counts, attempted first-degree murder, arson, and multiple other charges. The beautiful part of this, Martin got 160 years with no chance for parole by the time he was done. Now, that being said, Here's the front of the building right here. Okay? In the front of this building, straight across the street, is a Walmart store. On the back of Walmart, there's a camera that shines right at the 3rd floor of this apartment complex. Martin didn't have a chance. But what did Martin do? Here's what Martin did. This is 20 minutes after he threatened me. And for the sake of discussion, some of the fire dynamics in this are really kind of cool. You see the building next to it off-gassing? This was shot by the local news crew, the helicopter. It was a cool video, so I had to call and get a hold of it. What Martin did is he went to the Walmart across the street, got himself some lighter fluid, went to the 3rd level, sprayed it down, touched it off. Went to the 2nd level, sprayed it down, touched it off. Went back to Walmart, got more lighter fluid, came back to the 1st level, sprayed it down, touched it off. That fire moved so quick, our station is maybe 10 blocks away. And it was that big, that fast.
She's in the rain, right?
Look at the radiant heat. Oh, that's Jerry, by the way.
Why they got different uniforms?
They're actually, we're in the process of merging with another department.
Oh, okay.
So, just 2 different gear.
Wow, it's just sucking air.
Lost track.
Look at that.
Not enough to get your attention? Come on. Still no engine yet.
So where are those first 2 guys from?
First, they were actually coming back from the hospital. They were in an ambulance, dropping off the patient. They just happened to be driving by when it got towed. They're standing there waiting for water. So, here's the best part. Here's Martin. Oh, wait. Excuse me here. Martin was interviewed real quick by a news crew. None of us at the time had any idea who he was. This is while the building's on fire. Come here, Martin. Let's see if we can turn this up a little bit. I hope I don't mess this up.
Do you know where the volume is?
That's probably too high, but we're going to go with it.
I was sitting at Walmart and I just happened to see everyone running towards my mom's house. I heard people saying, look at the smoke and look at the flames. So I turned around, I saw smoke start building up. So I ran around the side of the building to see what was happening, and that's when I saw all the flames rolling out the staircase. And then when I saw the flames, I ran back to Walmart and called my sister. And then I went out here to wait for the fire department. It took them about 15-20 minutes after I called my sister to get here. And then they showed up, and that's when everyone started crowding around. Well, I was standing out here, and before the fire department came, I saw all the flames building out the staircase. They were going about 5-10 feet above the apartment, towards the 2nd and 3rd floor, between the breezeway.
And so, did you stop
I didn't see it going engulfing in the apartment until the fire department came. When the fire department came, the flames were coming out of the windows from the 3rd floor apartment, the one across from my mother's. it's a shame.
Listen what he
it's
says.
bad, but I mean, I don't really have any feeling to it. Like where my mom's gonna stay.
I don't have any feeling to it. Really?
Martin Espinosa. MartinEspinoza.
I don't have any feeling to it. Really?
Did they get him to spell his name out because they sensed that his answers were not normal?
Once
His
this
behaviour
aired,
is
yeah,
not
once this aired, the sheriff's office got a hold of it and went, we've seen him before. We looked at it and went, we've seen him before. Come to find out, Martin had set upwards of 40 fires. He admitted to about half of them. But they started looking at him and went, hey, there's a problem here. So we were able to get him to lock everything down. So yeah, Martin's doing 160 years. Real quick, thrill seekers. These people love to get away with it. I love the terminology. It's not mine. I wish I could claim it, but a validation of their superiority. That's how they feel. I got one in particular I'll show you here. They're overwhelmingly male. Overwhelmingly male. These guys also have a problem with authority. Most all of them do. So, they seek attention. They will stay and watch that fight. How many of you ever taught to take pictures of the crowd when you get on scene? You got to take pictures of your crowd. On the private side, you may not get that opportunity. However, ask for it. You can get that information. Your arsonist may be standing right there in the crowd watching. We've caught a few of them. Martin was one of them. He wasn't a thrill seeker, but he was one of them. They love to come back to the scene and take a souvenir. They will show back up. They may even offer to help you dig. No. What's your name? I should have asked that. Now I'm thinking about it real quick on a side note. I had a guy that had a fire in Pueblo, Colorado. This guy, has anybody ever come up to you and said, hey, I want to make a statement? And you just look at him and go, I'm not on time for you right now. Just because they either look ridiculous or their story sounded stupid or you're just like, I don't have time.
They come in and they won't tell you what happened. They won't tell you the whole scenario.
If they do, right?
Oh, she's a junkie, she's a prostitute, this, that. That's the guy that talks you out.
That's the guy. I learned a very hard, valuable lesson. I now listen to everybody and every story they have to tell. I didn't mess up, but I messed up. So I'll eat this one. This guy walked up to two Pueblo police officers and said, hey, he said, I know what happened. He said, I want to make a statement. And they looked at each other and they looked at him and they just kind of scratched their head and went, all right. The rest of us kind of dismissed him. This guy walked up and said, here's what happened. He said, somebody shot a flaming arrow onto this roof, stuck in the roof and burned the building down. And we all went, what? The reason they didn't take the guy seriously is when he walked up, he had on a pair of thongs, he had a long beard, a Viking helmet, and a diaper. That was the guy that wanted to make the statement. We dug the whole thing out, and guess what? Sure as crap, we found an arrow. He wasn't wrong. He was absolutely correct. So I learned a lesson, and I got to listen to people more often. It just kind of reminded me of that. So a couple of these characteristics. They like to be smart. They think they're smarter than you. A lot of motivational tendencies. High levels of intelligence. They're very intelligent. Matter of fact, they're very good at this. They could probably do our job better than most of us. They're that kind of intelligent. And I'll give you the individual here in just a second. Before that, I put this in here just to clear it up. Psychopath has been replaced with the term sociopath. The psychopath is not a used term much anymore. These people have been described as that. Not much regret for any of their crimes. But this individual, most of you, some of you may have heard of this guy. 1984, a fire broke out at Ole's Home Center. And what Ole's Home Center was, it's kind of a, think of Bunnings with a fabric section. Okay? Same type of a place, but they sell fabric in one half of the store. 4 people died in the fire. A series of these arsons were committed mostly in '89. A copy of the fingerprint was found on a piece of paper. And it matched to John Leonard Orr out of California. Anybody familiar with John Orr? Anybody not familiar with John Orr? John Orr was the Pasadena County Fire investigator. John Orr kind of wrote the book on what we do now. He was very good at it, but there was a reason he was really good at it, because he was the one doing it. So he knew how all this worked. It's believed that he set nearly 2,000 fires between '84 and '91. That's a lot of fire, folks. That's a lot of fire. And the astounding fact is, after they busted him, the overall fires in Pasadena County went down 90% after they locked him up. Literally the next day, fires just stopped. To this day, he's still locked up and he denies it to this day. I never set a single fire. Matter of fact, I shouldn't even be in here. If you're a female and you go to interview him, he's better than you. He won't talk to you. He will not even speak to you. A friend of mine, Laura, she went to interview him, wouldn't even give her the time of day. He wouldn't even acknowledge that she was there. That's the kind of mentality that you're dealing with these individuals. This is what John used. He took 3 matches, a piece of yellow notebook paper, and a cigarette. He'd light the cigarette, time delay device, it would burn down, ignite the matches, light the paper, it would all burn away by the time anybody found it. Well, one of them didn't burn away one day, and they actually got a fingerprint on a piece of paper. The FBI didn't run it for 10 years because they thought, nah, it's a long shot. They never ran it. They had their guy the whole time. They never did. That's John Orr. Back in the day. Life in prison, 3 counts of arson, 4 counts first-degree murder. He's still locked up. That is a thrill-seeker arsonist. Other people, Thomas Sweat, Paul Keller, a lot of those guys. And I looked for people here. I couldn't find anything. I looked. For like 2 days I looked and I couldn't find anything. I made the effort though. And I hear stories.
There's a few out there.
Vic, I do. How come everybody in here is pointing at you right now?
Exactly.
All right, I'm getting close to being done here, guys. We're almost at that hour. Talk about males versus females. Look, there's very few stories compelling the two. Males versus females, there's not a lot of research on it. In the U.S., anywhere in the world. Part of the reason is that there's little psychological characteristics, there's very little difference between the two. When they're at that age. Young children, they don't have the ability to reason. Like when you tell young kids, 2, 3, 4, 5-year-olds, and you say, look, if you clean your room, I'll give you a popsicle. They don't understand that. They don't have the mental capacity to figure out a negotiation, what it is that you're doing. So if you try to reason with them, it falls on deaf ears. They don't have any idea what you're talking about. If you give them a popsicle, all they think, oh, cool, I got a popsicle, cool. They don't have any clue, they don't have a concept. So, a little bit of the variance. Talk about female fire setters. You brought it up a second ago. So here it is. Female fire setters tend to shift what it is that they're doing from fire setting activities to other self-destruct type things. The exception to this is the revenge fire female arsonist. The revenge fire female arsonist fits into that category of, you did something to piss me off, I'm collecting all your stuff, I'm throwing it at the center of bed, I'm going to burn all your stuff. It's a single act. It's not they don't do it all the time, it's just a one-time act. Point being is this, it's not premeditated. Something happens, this is the reaction. There's no premeditation. When this kind of thing occurs, 1, 2 times maybe, it's not going to occur again. But if it does occur, it can get categorized. thought this was an interesting statistic, so I'd throw it in here. They set fires out of love. I never understood it at first, but when you've interviewed a few of them, you talk about it, and they really explain it to you in the aspect of they made the fire, they nurture the fire, they'll feed the fire, they protect the fire. That's their general thought process. Now, is this something that I'm going to go out and diagnose? Absolutely not. However, if you do come across somebody and you do have some history, and you're able to get some of that information, it may prove valuable to you in conducting that interview and get the information that you need to get. They claim someone can claim this addiction. It's not a sexual experience. Fire setting is not a sexual experience. That's a common belief, but it's just not true. But be a male thing, be a female thing, but it's just absolutely not true. It doesn't work that way. Questions? Cluster fire center.
So that's 1 week before, 1 week after.
Usually.
Cluster.
Yeah, what he's talking about is a cluster fire center. And what a cluster fire center is someone who, say you had you're a young child, you have a traumatic event in your life. The loss of a parent, the house burning down, there's a car crash, there was something that happened in your world to trigger whatever that was. And usually, when it doesn't manifest at a young age, it's usually, from my understanding, it's a later age. Fire setting is one way that they actually express that. So usually 1 to 2 weeks before, 1 to 2 weeks after, in that month time frame, centered around that person will be a series of fires that are set. It's not an official category, but it does fall into it. It's referred to as a cluster fire center. So that may be somebody that you're looking for. If you think you've got a firebug someplace, or you've got an arsonist, if they're a cluster fire center, and you don't get them in that time frame, you're not going to see them again for a year. They're going to be dormant. They're going to be gone. Good stuff. All right, anybody else? What did I miss? Did that hold anybody's attention, or were you guys bored out of it? Sure.
You also said there was some sort of expert.
That would be a forensic psychologist. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I brought this up to a couple of people, but the revenge fire setters are people that in the States that I take very seriously. These individuals will actually have a list, like in their pocket, a piece of paper with your name on a list, like in jail. As soon as I get out, you're toast. I mean, it's an actual, real, physical, tangible, I got your name on a list, your ass is mine, kind of individual. The revenge fire setters are very, very scary. They're they can, like I mentioned earlier, they can be fire bombers. I'm on about 6 of those lists. Oh yeah. So the thing about it is when that individual, if that individual is ever released, anybody that is, what I talked about, anybody that's done them wrong, testified against them, got them convicted, anything along those lines, will they? Maybe, maybe not. However, I'll get a phone call and they'll notify me and say, hey, so-and-so's out. Great. Yes, sir?
What statistics are serial fire setters for insurance, male and female? Because we've got one woman who's had 3 kitchen fires.
Interesting point. That statistic is not mapped, and it should be. It should be.
It's a shit call.
It kind of spreads into another topic, if I may. Familiar with NFPA 921? Anybody knows what 921 is? All right. One of the changes, one of the things that's going to come out of 921 in this next rollout in 2020 is they are actually doing away with
Classification.
cause classification. So natural, incendient, those are gone. They're no longer going to be in 921. A lot lot of people panicked about that, and it's for part of one of those reasons. Is they say, well, if I don't have that, how am I going to classify my fire? Call it what it is. I think getting rid of that may help that problem, and we may be able to track that kind of thing. So if you call a fire exactly what it is, it's a kitchen fire, it started on the stove. So the example that's given on a regular basis is, let's say that, same lady, you show up, right? And the story she gives you is, look, I was just putting a pot of oil on the stove, I was gonna fry some fish, all right, you know, whatever I'm gonna do. And she says, I lost track, I fell asleep on the couch. She says the pot boiled over, got into the flame, caught the cabinets on fire, it was a mess. Okay, would you buy that story? If the evidence, if the scene revealed what she said, would you say, okay,
It's plausible.
it's plausible, right? Well, what happens, so on your BJ and Dickie, they show up and go, oh, well, I got an interesting piece of information for you. This is her 6th kitchen fire in the last 4 years.
Yeah.
Does that change things a little bit?
She gets
Yeah,
her
we don't
house
see that.
painted out.
Do what?
She gets her house painted out
Yes.
for free.
Yes, and that goes where we talked about arson, fraud. It's that same kind of thing. So in that light, when that's one of those things that you can actually, it gets complicated in the States, but here you guys are probably, I think, actually you guys are better about it even than we are. You guys actually share that information. Because if it's truly finding out about what really happened, all right, well, let's find out what really happened instead of playing games. And then if you start some kind of a statistical bank and say, look, we're going to start logging all this kind of stuff, and you can track those kind of things, that may be part of the answer, because we don't have that log either, and I wish we did. That'd be tremendous.
What do you reckon of, I've had a few where like tenants are involved, you know, they torture a house just so they can move. What do you categorise that?
We
Make an upgrade.
that I would probably, if I had to put that someplace, probably fraud.
But it's not fraud, because they're not doing it to make money, they're just doing it because they want to move out of the house.
Well,
there.
are they fraudulently getting out of the lease?
No, it's public housing. We're
Oh, it's
paying
public
for
housing.
it.
Okay, I get
They
you.
don't like the area, or they don't like the neighbours. I've had a few, well,
They may not actually fit into one of those categories.
because they're doing it just so they can move out of the area.
We get that all the time.
Malicious damage.
It's not malicious damage, they're doing it for a reason.
Well, what is it then?
No, I mean, no, they're doing it so they can
Damage to the place.
What's the motive? What's the
They
motive?
just-
No, their intent isn't to. Their intent is so they can move.
They just don't want to live there anymore.
It is identified in previous studies about fire settings that that's not uncommon.
Yeah.
People will do that to move areas because they know if it burns out, they get relocated. It's also like
special category for
way back in
renters who burn.
many years ago.
Because it's like it's government housing. It's not their house.
I got you.
That's right, yeah.
They're getting nothing, no front end. They
Happens
just
all
want
the
to
time,
move.
those country towns.
I wouldn't put it in a category.
It has been historically categorised over the years previously.
Sure.
And there's another instance back in the 1800s where they would get occasional cases where women would be mistreated by their husbands and they would set fire to the house as their excuse to get out. Or they would be locked up in their room and treated like a sex slave. And again, they would set fire to the house so they could be rescued and taken out of the house. Similar sort of thing.
If it happens more than once, then it'd be
It's a cry for help.
able to categorize if it happens more often. That would be good. What else you guys got? Anybody? Nothing?
Can I ask one question? Which is, why the people who make fire regulations don't need shipping? I come off gas carriers, and those green signs are 4 feet off the deck, not up top where they've skewered by the smoke. The ships have theirs 4 feet. The gas carriers have them 4 feet off the deck. So if it goes on fire, you crawl along to the exit. You can't see.
An aircraft have the lights on the floor.
That's an interesting point. We talked about the other day in Las Vegas. They changed part of the fire code, and they put the exit sign on the ceiling, and they put it on the floor. They put it in both locations. Could we sing?
Oh, the killing us. Hey, Rusty!
Yeah, what's the psychology behind that?
There's not. Pencil pushers. And it's legislation that I think we're going to change on multiple fronts. That's all I got, you guys. It's about right at my hour. I think I'm pretty close. So, let's take it up.
Thank you, Todd, very much. Australia's finest red wine here. You're all right. You can either drink it here or wait till you get home. It's a great topic. I was going to say that something that as crime investigators here, we don't really get to see or interview people who have done these things. And these blokes here, they actually interview the psychics. We don't get a chance to see them. So it's all very, very interesting. I do thank you for your time. Hope you all enjoyed it. Enjoy your year. Merry Christmas to everyone. Thanks to the committee. Thank you for watching, all two of you. And we'll see you all next year.